It's a model railroad Q&A, and I've got a lot of questions to answer, so let's just get right into it. A special thanks to these model railroad businesses for supporting the channel in one way or another. Hey everybody, my name's Jimmy. Welcome to Coffee and Trains. Today I am drinking some Donut Shop brand coffee, some of my favorite coffee to drink. If you want to tell me what kind of coffee you are drinking and have it featured just like these guys right here, you can do that in the comments below, and who knows, you might see your comment pop up on an episode of Coffee and Trains. Also, this is my monthly Q&A where I try to answer some of your questions on this video, so if you want to have your questions maybe answered next month, you can put that in the comments below and I might get to it for next month. I've been trying to get to every question, but I've gotten so many questions now that I'm kind of having to have a cutoff now. So there you go, just get your questions in and get them in fast. Cheers, guys. Oh, and one more thing, if you're just looking for the one question from the title and thumbnail, you can just go to this time code right here and that'll get you your answer. The Miner 3746 says that they already have the big boy from Kato and they're currently looking to buy another one from Broadway Limited since it has the smoke. I love the smoke on mine. And he was like, what is your opinion on road numbers? Well, it really depends. If you have the Kato one, that means you have 4014. And I like the detail on that one. I have a 4014. I actually have two of them. And that is one that is just a really nice one. So I would just look into something a little different. Look into one of the ones with the coal tender. It just really depends on what you want. Of course, Broadway Limited is doing their Conductor Club exclusives with 4014 and 4019. So it really depends on what you want. I opted for a fantasy scheme one with the gray, so 4023. So it really just is what you want out of yours. If you're looking to do some realistic operations, go for one of the ones with a coal tender. You can also look for one of the other ones that is preserved but not running. There's a few of them out there. So yeah, just whatever you would want, but just figure out what exactly you want. Anthony Borden 2513 asks if I can 3D print a North American porter crane in HO scale. Now, one thing that I actually had to stop doing, and I've had quite a few people ask me about this, is I really had to let something go to keep, because I was getting really busy. And the Etsy store was great, and it was something that it was just really, it took a lot of time to do, and it's just something that I could not keep up with and get my shipments out and things like that. So I decided to let the Etsy store go and just focus on providing 3D models through my Patreon. You can buy them through my Patreon store, limited number. Going to work on getting some more of those up there at some point. But that is something that I really kind of stopped doing the 3D print models for order. There's plenty of services out there, and I'm sure there's someone here that does their own 3D print design. So if you do that, leave that in the comments below and take a look for that. Jandrib0324 says that they're building a Inscale switching layout and they want to go for DCC EX. And he says he's already bought the Wemos 2560, which is with Wi-Fi, but he's having an issue finding a supported motor shield in his country, which is South Africa. And he asked for some recommendations. Well, I had to come back in and edit this because I actually found a little bit better of a resource here. I went and looked at some South African online shopping, and takealot.com has this L298 dual bridge DC motor shield driver that you can get, and this will work with DCC EX. The only problem is that the board has no current sense and you are going to have to do some modification to it. Luckily, the DCC EX website has everything you need to know in nice pictures and instructions of how to modify this board to work. So this one should work for you, and you can also check out the DCC EX Discord if you need any help. JRH Productions 54 asks, what is the best Inscale track system? And he says that he uses Easy Track, which a lot of people use. And this is really a tough question because it really depends on what you want to do. If you're looking to go just the maximum amount of realism and customization, you're going to be looking at just regular plain old track, whether it's Flex Track or Set Track from a company like Atlas or Pico or any of those. I like Atlas track, but Pico is really great as well, and a ton of people love Pico. And with the pre-attached road bed, I am very partial to Kato Unitrack. It's just a really solid product, and it's a really well-designed system in the way that the pieces are designed for lengths and everything, and they fit together, and you can still make a really good looking layout with it. Of course, Bachmann Easy Track is probably up there as a close second in terms of the amount that's available. But one that people don't think about is Atlas System. I believe it's True Track. And one thing about Atlas Track is that if you're a North American modeler, the ties are to scale on that. And it doesn't have as many pieces as Kato Unitrack and Bachmann Easy Track, but if you're looking for a pre-attached roadbed with the realistic North American ties, definitely take a look at Atlas True Track. But I love Kato Unitrack. That's personally my favorite. It's really kind of a to each his own thing. Michael Amoroso asked me, do I isolate my Inscale layout into sections? Well, I technically do, though I don't have power districts, but I do have insulated connectors in between the two sections of my layout. My layout's built on 2 hollow core doors, so I just put insulated connections so that I could basically diagnose problems a lot easier. Like if I had a power dropout, which I've had before, I would know where to look and where I don't need to look. So that's what I have, is I just have an insulation between the 2 main sections of my layout. Dan Balmer asked an interesting question about multi-era passenger stations, as he wants to be using a lot of passenger rail in his layout with things like the 20th Century Limited, but like the Chicago Northwestern 400, Metra, all of these kind of things. Well, the cool thing about passenger stations is you can have ones that have been around a long time and haven't really changed their decor but can still be modern. So for an example that a lot of people may not know of or just off the beaten path is, I'm originally from a city called Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm from that area. And the Amtrak station in Greensboro is just straight out of the 1920s. It's been restored. It's beautiful. Got a lot of the marble and just like the nice exterior features. And it just looks really great. But it totally fits in a modern layout because that's how it looks today, as well as how it looked way back when. So what I would do for a mixed era station is definitely go older, because you can just say that it has been refurbished and they kept the same style. So going older is always going to be better, because obviously you can't have a newer like 70s modern clean lines running with the Super Chief or the 20th Century Limited. But yeah, go for an older station and you can just say that it was modernized and refurbished. Sadman68 says that they have a programming track and JMRI is not getting a response from the engine. They've tried 3 different engines with different decoders and the same thing. So the one thing that I would do is, first of all, make sure there's a couple things that when I started off that I had issues with, and sometimes I still do as a little like duh. The first one is to make sure that it is connected to the B terminal for programming if you're programming through the programming track on the motor shield. So there's an A and a B connected to the B. Connect your wires to the B terminal. Which is if you're using the regular Deke robot shield, the L298P, it's going to be the ones that are closest to the middle, and it'll say A and B on it. The other thing that I do sometimes is really dumb is I'll be trying to figure out why it's not working, why it's not everything. The lights will come on and everything. They won't be quite as bright for some reason. Then I'll realize I didn't plug in power to the motor shield so that it could do this. So you'll definitely want to make sure you have power connected. I have done that many a time and kind of been like, oh, duh. So yeah, just make sure that you do that. Choo Sam says they have a question about Rokahan battery powered packs and with HO scale. They said they had a recent power outage and they were looking for a way to be able to run trains without wall power, and his layout is DC. Well, here's what I would do. So the Rokahan ones, I looked them up and they're put out about 3.7 volts, and that's really not enough to be able to get anything with HO scale. So what you're really going to be wanting to try to get up to is about 12 volts, and so for that you'd also want that, and then let's say 2 amps, that's about 24 watts. And what I would say is I would look into a little battery backup power system, just one of the small ones you can find on Amazon that has a plug, whether it's one that's meant to be a computer backup or a separate battery that you can transport somewhere that has a little plug, something in the 200 to 300 watt range, which is going to give you quite a few hours of operation if you're running 12 volts and 2 amps. Even if you're running 15 volts and 2 amps, that's about that's quite a lot. That's about 30 watts. So if you look at watt hours and all that kind of stuff, that's plenty. So a 200 to 300 watt power supply is going to give you an extra amount of runtime with the DC layout And you can just plug your power supply in it, and you don't have to do anything fancy like swapping out your controllers or anything like that. Just plug it into the power supply. Tobias L1000 asks where he can find this coffee cup with all the railroads on it. What all does this have on it? It's got a lot of them on there. We can see a lot of the fallen flags as well as modern ones, because there's CSX, Canadian Pacific, which is now, I guess, technically a fallen flag. Conrail, Canadian National, B&O, just a lot of different ones. So put that down because it has my coffee in it. I bought that one actually at the gift shop at the North Carolina Transportation Museum in Spencer, one of my favorite places to go. But it's one of those things that you can probably find either online or at one of the vendors that sells like t-shirts and coffee mugs at a train show. But like I said, I got it at a gift shop, so definitely I would look at train-themed gift shops as well as online. I'm not sure if it has a brand or anything. Let me lift it slowly and see. Yeah, it doesn't have that anything specific with that, but yeah, so I would just look online or at train shows where the guys are selling like the t-shirts and the and coffee mugs and things like that. That might be the best place to find it. Logan West 4164 asked, does the Kato Unitrack turntable work with no DCC? Yes. Kato Unitrack is actually a system that was primarily designed to work with DC. It is from Japan, and DC is way more popular in Japan than DCC. So the Kato turnout system is designed to, or Kato turntable system rather, is designed to work with standard DC, because that is what the track is originally designed to be for. The Oil Cake BFDI, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, asks what's the most silliest DCC sound that is already able to buy. So I was trying to think of what a silly sound would be, and I don't think it's going to be necessarily the sound that you buy or it's going to be more of what you put into it. So say, and I've totally done this without thinking when I was testing something, and it just sounded weird and off, like putting diesel sounds in a steam engine and vice versa. It just sounds weird, and it's kind of kooky. There's something about hearing the dynamic brakes kick on in a steam engine. So yeah, that's probably the weirdest thing, is just putting like the wrong decoder, because some decoders they are dedicated diesel and steam decoders, into the wrong type of engine. So yeah, just having the wrong sounds coming out is just really like disconcerting. Scurbs7755 asks how I solder the tiny wires together like the ones on the We Honest signals that I buy without melting the resistor. And he says he's been successful in about 75% of them. So what I do is I typically use a set of helping hands with the small wires, and I will tin them. And what tinning is basically you get a little bit of solder just on the tips of the wire that you're getting ready to solder. So you'll do the wire you're doing, and then like wherever the resistor is, you'll just get a little bit of solder on that. That way you're not trying to do that. Then you can bring them together using a set of helping hands or something similar, and just put them together, and then basically just kind of tap the soldering iron on there just for a minute, and hopefully that'll melt and flow together. And that's typically how I will do it. Danny King says they bought an HO scale big boy. That is a big boy. And it is the stealth version, and he wants to know what sort of a DCC decoder that I would recommend. Well, for DCC, I think that Soundtrax has done a really great job for big boys. One thing that I have noticed is that they have all the sound profiles on the Steam decoders, and they were also used in the Kato Big Boy. They used a TSU 1100. I think that's the one they put in the Kato Big Boy. So they've got really good sounds for those big boys. So I'm always a fan of Soundtracks. They're made in America. They're really, really good, solid decoders, and they're just good people too. So there's nothing wrong if you want to do an ESU. I have plenty of ESU, and obviously I just did a video. I have plenty of Digitrax, but I definitely say when I can, I do like to have a Soundtrax decoder that I can put into a locomotive. Evavinzun164 asks for pre-built layouts. Is the knock baseboard kits sold in the US? And I did some digging around. There's some places that have it listed, but it is sold out. Places like Direct Hobbies and things like that. I could not quite find them. These are the kits that you only have to add tracks and buildings and landscape and stuff. The other thing that I know of is that Woodland Scenics has these modular baseboard kits that you can get, and they're not the worst in terms of expense. They're not the cheapest thing in the world, but you can get these entire kits that are basically standing right there. So that may be something that you want to look at, is those Woodland Scenics modular kits. Tony McDonald, he asked about model railroading and VR. And he is saying, would I try something like the Trains Railroad Simulator or something like that if I don't have the space? Well, this is something I've actually been I worked on for a while, and then I've put it down, and I kind of want to get back into it. There is a simulator out there called Rolling Line, and it is on Steam, which is a gaming platform for those of you that don't know. And you can get into VR with it, and you can put in like an Oculus and plug it into your computer, and you can go into a virtual room and build your own model railroad. I think the game's about 20 or 30 bucks. And they have a lot of pre-built model railroads as well. They have some training to teach you how to do it. The controllers that you hold kind of look like MRC controllers. They're just really, really, really neat. And like it takes a little bit of getting used to do it, but it's a really, really cool thing because you can build as big of a layout as you want. And I think it's going to probably be the first place that I actually build like a full-blown layout. And if I can ever get good enough at it to really build a nice, huge layout, then I'll definitely have to show you guys and take you on a tour of my virtual layout. But Rolling Line so far is the best one that I've tried in terms of simulating the building and running of a model railroad. If you have any questions that you would like answered on next month's Q&A, you can leave that in the comments. I have been trying to get to everyone's, but I finally decided that I have to do a cutoff at about 1 week after I post because it was getting really long. If you guys remember last month's video, it was pretty long. So I'm kind of having to cut stuff off here, so I'm not being able to get to everyone's question, but I'm trying to get to as many of them as I can, but I have to cut it off at some point. So get your questions in really fast if you want me to answer them. So in the meantime, why don't you check out these model railroad businesses?
Mini Prints creates 3D printed detail parts, figures, and animals that make your model railroad layout come alive. Get 15% off with code DIY15 at miniprints.com, because it's the little things that matter most. Model Railway Backshop is a great place if you're looking for a quality paint job for your old or new brass model locomotive. If you're looking to get that brass model weathered, you can get that done too. Right now, you can get 10% off any brass model painting and weathering job by using the promo code NMRA10. Check them out at modelrailwaybackshop.com.
I really do enjoy doing these Q&As. I like being helpful to some of you guys. So thank you for sending your questions in, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you can find this cup because I really like this cup. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, drink some coffee, and happy railroading.